All right, so that wraps up.
You could sit right here.
Right here, we gotta. Lauren might be gone for 20 days. Who knows? Okay, so next one, number two. Erica shared this something coming up, and this is something that man, people will. Almost everyone shares this, that they start going through the integration process and think, oh, our old stuff starts healing, things are coming up to the surface for them, whether it's through our neurointegration process, maybe they're doing more yoga or doing meditation, maybe they're having difficult conversations, and they say something along the lines of, man, I got all these emotions that I don't normally feel. Some feel new, some feel old, doesn't necessarily matter, but they're coming up for me and I'm feeling them more. And the question is, what do I do with them? So Erica, you brought this up, so I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I think about like kids whenever this happens, because when kids start getting adjusted, the changes are just so drastic comparatively to adults. But I think about this one kid that came in several years ago at this point, and his parents had been saying that he was having like all these tantrums and stuff had been going on, and he was just crying all the time and really disruptive to the family. And when one person's dysregulated like that, it really dysregulates everybody. But they were saying that they brought him in. His name was Teddy, or we'll say that for now, but he came in, he got adjusted, and I remember after the first session, his parents were like, he was like crying, holding us. It was like almost unmanageable how much emotion came up out of him. And the next day, I checked in with him again, like we usually do, and they were like, actually, today he actually feels like grounded for the first time in years. I don't know what that was. And I was like, all those emotions lived within him. He wasn't necessarily sure maybe how to process them or let them out. And instead of them coming out in this like one big, like, over the top threshold moment, like it had been doing for him over the years, it was now gradually starting to come out just little by little. Because I think he had the bandwidth at that point, or was regulated and feeling safe and comfortable enough to actually experience and feel his emotions. So when people have stuff that comes up with emotions, I'm like, the first question, have you ever felt this before? Is this something completely new for you? And I think with a lot of guys, actually, they say, like, actually, I'm not really used to feeling this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that is huge.
A lot of women as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But I think that it's like two different things, like, wow, this is actually huge. And you might have already had all these feelings within you, and now they're coming up to the surface because you're actually ready to look at them, actually ready to process them in regards to like old stuff. But I think that whenever an emotion comes up and it's completely new, I think that that's where the tools come in. And I think that's where the work of like knowing yourself comes in as well. So kind of twofold with that, and I kind of go in different directions. But if somebody came in, that would be the first thing I ask them, is what do you feel and why do you feel it, and is it true?
Yeah, I think the consciousness of it too, like there's two different routes. Some people are like, this is coming up, I don't like feeling this. And then there's a resistance towards it. And then some people are like, I'm feeling this and it's painful, right? And so for the painful person, just let it know it's energy in motion, it's working its way through. For the person that doesn't want to look at it, I think the one thing that I say all the time is like, you can either look at it or not look at it. I didn't put that in you, right? It's coming, like you've been going through this process and it's coming through you, out of you, to work itself through. Because if you don't look at it, what we resist tends to persist. It's not just a rhyme, it actually works, right? It's actually science, right? It's like this thing will come back, and that could look like cancer, that could look like an autoimmune disease, that could look like debilitating pain, right? So it's coming up for you, so you can either look at it now or never really look at it.
It's the stinky diaper under the rug.
The stinky diaper. And it's back, baby, that diaper.
So next time you're experiencing an emotion that is uncomfortable, I get it. It doesn't feel good, but it's not going to last if you actually look at it. I was working with some kids and doing some breath work and emotion things and stuff like that. In my example, I actually had a diaper. It wasn't used. It was an old diaper, and I brought a little a little rug from my bathroom. And I was like, if we don't feel our emotions, it's basically like this. There's this poopy diaper here, and instead of actually throwing it out, which is feeling the emotion, I'm just going to shove it under the rug because I don't want to smell it. I don't want to touch it. And I'm just going to put the rug on top of it, and just that's what I'm going to do. But over time, it's going to get more disgusting. I'm going to step on that rug and it's going to make it go everywhere and just make it messier. So eventually, you just have to throw it away. Like, that's all it is. And the kids were like, ah. But the teachers were like, it's just a hilarious example. Just it works to understand it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing that I'm taking away is like these emotions. They're one, they're not necessarily good or bad, they just are, right? And we have the potential to transform that old experience, that old thing that has been stuck in our biology, and utilize it for something good. But if we don't, then it's probably going to keep running the same cycle. And we can, I think the biggest fallacy too is like, if you don't look at it that you can't grow through, I think you can still grow through, but there's always, like we talked about procrastination last week, this is always like in the background, right? It's always kind of there. So how much growth, how much healing do you actually want? And so maybe your time, and I just want to like be like thinking about all the people, like maybe your time right now is not to go there, because there is times where like, hey, maybe right now is not the time to unleash something like that, because maybe you're not ready. But if you have this calling where something keeps coming, it's like, I need to do it, that's where the action then to look at that stuff is, I think it's going to be the most
And it
beneficial.
requires a lot of energy to hold that in the body anyway.
Totally.
So then
Yeah.
our vitality will be affected.
100%.
But when new emotions come up, it's like, I think about like a therapist or something working with people, like most of the time people say they have those same conversations like again and again, and that sometimes laying on the table will feel like a year's worth of therapy for them. And it's because I think that subconscious is like the 95 other percent. And when our conscious awareness and our subconscious start coming together, old patterns from the past are going to elicit emotions. But I look at it almost like symptoms of the body, almost of like guides for me of if that feels really bad, maybe I'm not going to do that again. Or if that feels really good, look at, wow, why? Was it me that was feeling good? Is it the people that's lighting me up? And then that kind of creates my like my path of alignment too, because I think the reason people struggle with emotions is because it disrupts decision making. People can't make decisions when they have these high emotions. And that's just what I'm chatting with a lot of people about. They have a lot of emotions about leaving their job or starting a new relationship. And it's really the decision making process. So whenever I think about decisions, I think decisions are black and white. I think emotions are really a huge scale where decisions are like, if this is a hell yes in my body, it feels like a yes, then it's a yes. If it's a no, it's a no. And if I don't know, then I'm going to table it. Whereas
That's it right there.
emotions feel like a stepping scale for me where people come in and they're experiencing anger, and it's kind of what Monica was saying, they like want it over with. It's like to get from anger to maybe what they want is peace. This is a huge jump. Like this is huge. There's so many other emotions in here where maybe the next best emotion after anger is rage or whatever it might be, or like feeling defeat, or like maybe it's hope, and then starting to work your way out of it like that. There's something really awesome, the emotional guidance scale. David Hawkins lays out all the vibrations of these emotions, and the really dense emotions tend to be the ones that get stuck in us, like shame and guilt, and the higher emotions like bliss and joy and peace kind of move through us really quickly. So he kind of walks you through how to move through that scale, but that's kind of how I guide people too. Is this a yes/no conversation, or is this like a what you're feeling kind of conversation?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Monica. What's the saying goes, when you are in a place of connection, your emotions will guide you. But if you're a place of disconnection, it's like they will trick you or fool you or something along those lines. I'm messing
Something
up
like
the
that,
quote, but it's like
yeah.
if you're connected, aligned, and you know what that feels like, your emotions will guide you. Like, yeah, this feels right. But most of the time, if you think about it for a second, you know when you're disconnected, you know when you're not, and your emotions come up and you feel that anxiety. Most of the time, it's tricking you to believe a certain thing. So as you said, maybe if you are in that disconnected state, take a step back and don't make any decisions that day. Just tailor it for a time where you're in a more calm place, because your emotions aren't running the show necessarily. Yeah.
I like that.